Hi everybody, welcome to our Hive 5 video series. Today we've got Justin with us. Hi Justin.
Hi Dan, thank you for having me on today.
Yeah, so Justin is from Focus4Growth and has really been making some big waves in dentistry over the past year and is set to do even more great work going forward. I met Justin actually through a mutual colleague, Simon from Patient Plan Direct, and he was saying that him and his team had been working with this great guy on some communication training, sales training, that type of thing. So I was very keen to meet him. So we thought it was something we should share with our network. Justin's got a course coming up, which we'll talk about at the end of the interview. But for now, Justin, could you give us your story, please?
Yeah, of course. Dan, thanks again for having me on to talk to your customers and clients. I really appreciate it. My background originally, I'll tell you the shortcut, but about 32 years ago, I trained as a dental technician. And I had 5 years working in the laboratory, realized at the end of it that I didn't really want that as a long-term prospect for my career. So I then started looking around for other options and really stumbled into dental sales and started on a territory back in late 80s, early 90s. Mm-hmm. And ended up kind of finding that I was quite good at sales, quite good at communicating. And there were some indicators from when I was in the lab. I used to do a lot of the communication with dentists, even with patients when they would come in. I was quite good at just connecting with people and talking to them. And then when I went into sales, I found that I could, I quite enjoyed meeting people, quite enjoyed the process of selling. I wasn't very good at it early on, and that was because the first company I worked for didn't provide any sales training. And then I went to a much larger company, Dentsply, and I had 4 years at Dentsply, and that's when everything changed. I was trained in sales, went through some really good structured development, and my performance improved, my confidence improved, and then I was able to do a lot more and be quite a bit more successful. And then in 1999, I joined 3M, and that really changed everything. So I joined their dental division as a key account manager and started to manage some of the large emerging corporate bodies at that point. They were called IDH and JD Hull and Oasis. And I was managing those large dental corporates and, established some really good relationships. I was also then managing the distribution channel into the market. So the Henry Schein's, DD Group, Wright Cottrell as they are now. And so kind of got this new distinction around how to manage larger, more complex sales opportunities and customers and stakeholders and that kind of thing. So it was a really, really good experience. And then 3M kind of identified me as an emerging leader, put me on a leadership fast track program that took me outside of dentistry. So then I started to manage kind of sales teams and then business teams outside of the dental market. Started off in medical, went across to an IT services business that they had, then a commercial graphics and films business, then a healthcare analytics business. And so I had this leadership career within 3M that took me outside of dentistry for probably about 12, 13 years. And then in 2017, I realized that I'd reached my ceiling in a corporation and wasn't enjoying it as much as I should have been. And so made a bit of a lifestyle decision to change careers. I retrained as an executive coach, left 3M, and then set up Focus4Growth. And this year marks our 5th anniversary. So I've been at this part of my business, my career for 5 years now. And what we've done is really started out coaching clients, but I've really focused in on the dental market because a lot of my clients are from dentistry. So I work on both the supplier side, so people like Align Technology, Patient Plan Direct, Septodont, the British Dental Industry Association. I work on the kind of those companies that supply the market, but more in the last 18 months, 2 years, I've also kind of managed to gain clients who are corporates or dental practices and dentists and principals and their teams. And what we do is I've written a couple of books, which I'm quite privileged to have done. So I've got them here. There you go, Dan. Brilliant. So this was the first one, which is a book for sales teams. And then we had a lot of dentists read the first book, which I was very flattered by. And then I had quite a bit of feedback from dentists saying, if you wrote that book as a specific book for dentistry, I think it would be really popular, it would do really well. So I wrote the second book, Inspire, Consult, Sell. And that book really does take all of the proven principles around mindset for sales, about how you approach patients, about connecting, establishing relationships, and then following a structured process so that your consultations are really impactful for patients. And the great thing about a book, one is that it helps you as an author to really go deep into a topic, structure your thoughts and your thinking and the recommendations. But of course, it does the same for the reader. It allows them to go deep into a topic, start to really explore, improvements and development for themselves in this area of, consultative selling is what we call it, so that they can start to really, understand the depth of the principles involved in that communication and the skills around it. So that's kind of where we got to today. And then off the back of the books, very often there is a conversation with a customer who says, I've read the book, it's absolutely, it's been great. If we wanted some support to implement that, what would that look like? And hence the programs have become a bit of a natural flow from the books. So that's the kind of the history so far, Dan.
Yeah, that's very, very helpful. I definitely found the book really, really great, to be honest. And I got the feeling all the way through that if any dental practice, and I work with loads of them, just kind of went through almost chapter by chapter, reviewed their processes, reviewed how they could implement stuff, that what it'd do to their sales would be fantastic. So I really recommend reading it and trying to apply it to the business. So there's stuff we've taken from it at Hive. So actually, for suppliers to the dental market, you can add Hive to the list now as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
And obviously Connor's coming on the course as well. So yeah, it's really good. There's an amazing bit at the end of the book where you're in, I think it's your entrepreneurs group, and you're I think you're doing well, but you're not sure where to go next. And they say, well, Justin, why don't you just focus in on the dental market? And it was like a light bulb moment. I thought that was really funny. How was that, and how's it been kind of narrowing in on dentistry?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Dan. And it was the blindingly obvious staring me in the face. And for some reason, I either couldn't see it or didn't want to. But I think there is, it's interesting because you think if you specialize in a marketplace, there might be less opportunity. But what I found is that by specializing in dentistry, because the message is really clear, the analogy, it's interesting, the analogy I heard as part of the entrepreneurs course was, think of your specialism as a dog whistle. So if you have a dog whistle, only, I'm not saying that a marketplace isn't full of dogs, right? But only a dog can hear a dog whistle, right? Only a dog can hear it. And so if you decide that you are going to have this message to a market, if it's really clear and only that sort of customer can hear it, then there is prick up. And that is a really good analogy for me. And I think it's the same with dentists and patients. If you're a general dentist and you start to specialize, you will notice that you start to attract those type of specialist patients and specialist interest, I mean, really. And if you have a part of dentistry that you really enjoy, that you really find makes an impact on patients, that you get great results at, and you find the work more meaningful, then that ability to specialize in that area, take a specialist interest, start to talk about that with patients, really does help them to be attracted to your practice. And it's been the same with me for dentistry. So because I'm specializing in the marketplace, it's much more relevant for customers. It's kind of easier for me as well, because I still have quite a few clients outside of dentistry. And every time I work with those clients, whilst I enjoy the change, I have to kind of retune myself to a different market, because they don't talk about patients, they talk about customers, they don't talk about practices, they talk about businesses. And in some instances, they'll have specific names for their customers and the types of customer. So the fact that that I've specialized in dentistry has helped me. And I think it's really helped and been valuable for my clients, because we're also able to then share lots of different best practices from inside and outside of dentistry. Yeah,
definitely. It's for Hive, it's been because we were part of a previous organization where we also worked in chiropractic and kind of local SMEs and stuff. And then 8 years ago, we just focused on dentistry, which was probably about half our business anyway.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was fantastic because it's a great market. And it was, particularly at the time, it was quite easy to get good returns for our clients. But actually, in terms of what we can offer and how our service has improved, it's amazing if you're just focusing on this space. you can get really, really super focused. I always remember we went to see a practice once and we were trying to talk to them about branding, and he couldn't quite get it because his sign said, "We're a family practice that does cosmetic dentistry and has specialisms." And it was like he didn't understand that if you're casting a net too wide, you'll never get anything, or you'll never get what you want. You know, it's dentistry, so you're going to do all right. But it's when a practice really understands what they stand for, probably first of all, what their purpose is, and then how they're going to meet their audience. It's amazing what some of the businesses I've come across through the years that have really nailed that kind of core proposition. Yeah,
if you there's a couple of phrases that kind of stick in my mind. One of them is when you're trying to talk to everyone, you're talking to no one.
Yeah.
So you have to pick a target person. Like they use the term, I don't like the term avatar. I like the film, I don't like the term. But they talk about, create your ideal customer or patient avatar. When I hear the word avatar, I tend to tune out. But the principle is really sound, and that is identify who is the ideal person you would like to deal with, that you'd like to be a patient in your practice, and kind of just start to define them as a character. And it's really interesting when you do that, and then you start to project and message, and your brand speaks to that specific identity. It does start to attract those types of people. And one, it's the dog whistle effect. The person that's looking for that will find it. But two, it gives you a sense of clarity and confidence. So when you're communicating about it, I think you project a different kind of energy. And that's really important to convince somebody else of what they're looking for, So, yeah, really, really good advice.
Yeah, definitely. We thought we were speaking before this, and we're both of a similar mindset that, there is certainly a lot going on in the world, but the best thing we can do in our own lives and our own businesses is focus on what we can affect. So kind of going into this year, what advice do you have for dentistry? What kind of predictions do you have? What's your thoughts going into 2023?
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because the clients I'm talking to at the moment, they feel as if something's coming, but they haven't seen it yet. So there's no slowdown.
Yeah.
Nobody I've spoken to has said, "Oh yeah, we've already started to see the effects of, the different market and economic situations that we're facing at the moment." No, there isn't a single person that said that, but everybody is talking about the apprehension of it coming at some point this year. And what I've noticed in my business, and what I've noticed from clients that I'm working with, is that sometimes if you find yourself buying into that market noise, and it is noise at the end of the day, then you'll start to feel the apprehension that goes along with it. And actually, you can start to project that to your teams, and you can start to project that to your patients, and you can start to create a situation for yourself that actually is probably avoidable, in my opinion. So my advice is to continually focus on what it is you're looking to achieve in your practice. One part of that, most dentists I speak to, they really are committed to their patients, completely committed to their patients, delivering really high quality care, having a practice that serves the local community, having staff that care and show that, passion for their patients and the work they do and the quality of the service they want to provide. And if that remains your focus throughout 2023, you will stay on track. And it's really important as practice principals, as partners, as practice managers in practices and businesses, to help your teams stay on track as well, to keep that positivity around the work you're doing, the impact you're making, and the difference that you find yourselves having on your patients and your local communities. Because if that's your focus, then you'll stay kind of positive, you'll stay grounded, and external impacts won't have the same level of influence on your practice or your patients. And that, for me, is the best piece of advice. Kind of almost mind your own business, and when you mind your own business, you're able to then create this almost like a channel through those difficult situations. And as and when the market does change, or you do start to see those impacts, then have a plan that you can put into place that helps you to address that. Maybe it's have a marketing consultancy that you're working with that might help you to generate some more patient leads if that's what you need. Or have a referral program in the practice that you might put in place that helps your existing patients become stronger advocates for your practice. Start to ask your team members to deploy that and have those conversations with patients. So you can always be doing things that are proactive within your own practice that give you that sphere of influence. That's how I see 2023 playing out for a lot of our clients.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's I've heard it described as the difference between a mindset of abundance or a mindset of scarcity. Yeah. So it's often your mindset going into something kind of predicts the outcome, or I see it all the time. I remember I recommended a book to someone and kind of was chasing them to read the book because I thought they'd kind of really benefit from reading that book. Yeah. And they kind of said, they were like, okay, I'll give it a go then. And I was like, you're not going to get anything from the book, are you? Because you're going into it with trying to prove it wrong. And I see it in my own self that when I don't want to do something, or I think something's not worthwhile, I'm not going to get the required results from it, basically.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's true. And I'm reading the book by, have you read Mindset by Carol Dweck?
I haven't. No.
It's really interesting. It talks about the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset and how that plays out. And it's really fascinating because I talk a lot about mindset as a foundation for sales and influence of customers, patients, and sometimes of ourselves. Yeah. And actually, she goes really deep. She's a psychologist. She goes really deep into what are the ways in which a fixed or a growth mindset actually manifests itself in your thinking, in your approach to life, and even day to day, whether you think something's possible, whether you even attempt to make a change, even if it's just in the small resistance that we see in ourselves and others around, just any form of change or any form of disruption that we find in our lives. It's fascinating when you start to consider how you can manage yourself more effectively. Mm-hmm. And one of the key elements that was really interesting as I'm reading through it, she talked about, when we meet resistance and challenges, how you interpret them. If you interpret them as obstacles that could be defeating for you, and you just kind of back down from them, versus, true growth mindset is seeing the obstacle as not only a challenge, but something that's really positive. Wow, this is going to make me have to raise my game to overcome it. And after I've overcome it, I'm actually going to be better at doing this sort of thing in the future. And that is a real mindset shift. And very often we have to manage ourselves in those first instances, that first contact with a problem. Yeah. To make sure that we're able to see it as a positive thing that needs to be addressed and that gives us that additional resilience for the future. So, yeah, really important first principle, I think.
Yeah, and another theme of your book is reflection as well, because you kind of get that obstacle being the way kind of mindset where it's like you actually get shaped by your experiences and hopefully get better. But it's so easy to kind of get competent and forget those lessons that you learned years ago. So it's that important feedback loop of always kind of checking in and thinking, right, okay, what do I need to do next? I'm not actually thinking straight about this thing, and I definitely got a lot of that from the book as well.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Dan. And when I wrote both the books, actually, whilst they are books about connecting with people, influencing, selling, I wanted them to try and be a bit broader than that in terms of personal development, helping manage your own competency, your own mindset towards certain situations, and topping and tailing it, the tail end of it being the personal reflection, self-coaching, being able to sustain that continual sense of improvement. So I'm really glad you picked up on that and gained that from the book. Thank you. Really, really good.
Very good. So finally, could you tell us a bit about the course that's happening at the end of the month and how people could sign up to it?
Yes, thanks, Dan. Yeah, so as a follow-on from the book, we have developed this course called the Practice Growth Academy, and we are specifically looking at how we use the patient consultation and the sales process through that patient consultation to kind of transform practice growth, to really trigger and kickstart greater practice growth. Because a lot of practices find they are getting inbound inquiries, they're spending quite a bit on marketing and advertising campaigns to generate leads, and then they're not as comfortable with the way they're converting those leads as they could and should be. So we're looking to address that problem with the Practice Growth Academy, and we are taking the models from the book, Inspire, Consult, Sell, And over 2 days, so Friday the 27th and Saturday the 28th of January, which will be our launch course, we are running the course again in March and in May. So if anybody is interested and doesn't make the January course, they can contact us and we'll happily talk about the dates for the rest of the year. So every 2 months, we'll run it throughout the year. But the January course is quite special because we've got some really interesting people joining us. But we'll run through the content end to end over the 2 days. And what we're doing a few things that are slightly different. So as well as going deep into the concepts, and we're in it's a residential course, so we're overnight at a hotel in Cambridgeshire. So it's a lovely location based on a golf course, and it's called Why Boston Lakes. It's got lots of natural surroundings, really beautiful setting. But we're going to take this kind of structure where we blend some training on the principles and the content, not only from the book but the work that we do with clients. Some mentoring in terms of taking specific situations and working through them to say, in terms of best practice, how would you address these specific situations? And then the third element is coaching. So then we'll coach people to say, from what you've learned, now what are you going to put into practice for yourself? How are you going to make this actually become part of your integration in practice and the consultations that you have with your patients? And so we'll work through that over the 2 days. We're also encouraging people to come with someone else in the practice, so an accountability partner. And for those people coming on their own from a practice, we're aligning them with other people who are coming on their own from practices. So everybody will have some form of accountability and coaching as a kind of peer accountability partner element to the program. And then after the 2 days, we've got 2 online workshops that are follow-on workshops on Zoom, which are group coaching, because everyone will leave the 2 days with quite a clear action plan around the changes they're going to make in practice. We'll encourage them to work with their accountability partner as they implement. And then 3 weeks after the event, and then 6 weeks after the event, we've got these online group coaching sessions where we just help with troubleshooting. We help with, everything. There's a great quote that says, no plan survives contact with the enemy. When you go back into practice and start to try and implement this, there are going to be situations that come up. You think, well, that didn't really land as I expected it to, or that conversation didn't happen how I would have liked it to. We're encouraging people to bring those back to those online coaching sessions so that we can workshop them, give people some advice and say, well, think about handling it this way, think about the process of the structure and how that could help you to better manage that in the future. So end to end, it's a really nice kind of program that helps not just give you the training, but helps you with implementation beyond that. And then we've got this really nice workbook. It's like an Excel document that helps people to capture all of their changes and helps them to capture the structure that they want to implement as they go back into practice. And because it's in a single document, it's really it's easy for people to kind of work through, but then it's easy to share as well. So you can literally attach it to an email, send it to your practice manager, other associates, and just enables you to be able to have a single document that everybody can start to use as a best practice document. So we really have tried to think. It's the way we run our corporate programs. We really try to think about not just running a training course, giving people the tools and the opportunity for true transformation coming out of the program, not just coming into it.
Amazing. That's great. I'll add the comment that this is very much the area that's going to be a point of difference in dentistry. Historically, from a kind of marketing and sales perspective, we could just kind of throw a load of opportunities at a practice. And even if their processes were pretty poor, to be honest, sometimes you could still get the commercial return. That's the area where I see it tightening. People are still spending money, but they are more discerning now. They're more aware customer. So they're expecting a great experience. So highly recommend going on the course. Is there anything else you want to say, Justin, before we go?
No, only that, great to work in partnership with Hive. Dan, I appreciate your support. And if your customers or clients would like to connect with me, they can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. So it's Justin Leigh, Leigh. And the business is Focus4Growth. If people want to check out the website or connect with me, I'll be very happy to kind of open my network. I love kind of having new connections, new contacts. So very welcome. People are very welcome to get in touch.
Brilliant. Thanks, Justin. See you.
Pleasure. Thanks, Dan. Take care. See you soon.